looking at a really uh, abrupt and just seismic policy shift today, one that affects Upper Mustang in Nepal.
Right, this ancient kingdom right on the border with the Tibet Autonomous Region of China.
And it has been one of the most culturally sensitive and, well, restricted areas in the world for a long time.
A very long time. And this change, it's become a real flashpoint. For over 30 years, you had this massive financial wall around the area.
And now that wall has been, well, completely redesigned.
To put it mildly.
Exactly. The news we're digging into is this. No more $500 Upper Mustang permit unless you spend 10 days there.
And we're really examining this through the, let's say, very critical lens of the veteran Nepal guidebook author David Weiss.
And he is not pulling any punches on this one.
Not at all. He basically argues this isn't some great win for accessibility. He sees it as the final proof that the old high fee never actually protected anything to begin with.
Okay, so just a quick note for you. If you're a traveler thinking about this, we're focusing purely on the policy, the logistics, and these big questions about development.
Yeah, we're not going to cover the trek itinerary itself, not until this whole permit situation really stabilizes and we know what the final rules are.
So the core tension is this. Since 1992, that $500 fee was, officially for protection, to preserve this unique culture.
But now it's gone. And the big question David Weiss is asking is, if the fee didn't stop a giant road from tearing through the landscape, what was the real point of it in the first place?
Okay, so to get why this is such an earthquake, we have to look at the old system, the one that was in place for decades.
Right. Since 1992, the permit was, well, it was brutal. A fixed $500.
And that covered a mandatory minimum of 10 days.
A minimum. That's the key part. If your trek was 7 days, you still paid the full $500.
No prorating, no discounts.
None. And only if you went over 10 days did a daily rate of $50 kick in. But honestly, the fee was just the start of it, wasn't it?
Oh, the bureaucracy was something else. To even get in, you needed that main restricted area permit,
which held the $500 fee.
But you also needed the Annapurna Conservation Area Permit, the ACAP.
And the TIMS card, the Trekker Information Management System card.
Right, and on top of all that paperwork, the rules were so specific, you had to have a licensed guide with you.
Mandatory. No independent trekking. And you had to be in a group of at least 2 people.
2 non-Nepali, non-Indian people.
And all of it, every single piece of paper, had to be processed by a registered trekking company in Nepal. It was designed from the ground up to be complicated and expensive.
Which is why there's this sense of genuine relief from locals about the change. Former Prime Ministers Dahal, Doba, Oli, they all complained about it.
They did. They said the rule of charging $500 for 10 days had turned Mustang's tourism into, and this is a quote, a zoo.
A zoo. That's such a telling metaphor.
It is, isn't it? It suggests it wasn't about real engagement. It was about wealthy tourists paying a lot to come and just look, like an exhibit.
It definitely worked as a deterrent. The numbers show it pretty clearly.
They do. You had over, 41,000 foreign tourists visit the wider Mustang region recently?
Only 1,710 of them actually made it to Upper Mustang.
That's a huge drop-off, and it points directly to the cost and the sheer hassle of that restricted area permit. It created this massive gap between Lower and Upper Mustang.
So let's talk about the pivot, the actual policy change.
It's pretty straightforward, really. Effective November 2025, that fixed $500 fee is gone.
Completely gone.
And instead, foreign nationals will now pay $50 or the equivalent per day.
So just to do the math, a 5-day trip that would have cost you $500 before
now costs $250.
Right. Plus the ACAP and TIMS, of course. But the main financial barrier for a shorter trip is cut in half.
And you can imagine the local stakeholders are just thrilled. People like the Lomanthang Rural Municipality Chairman, Tashi Narbugurung, he said their efforts over a decade and a half had finally paid off.
And this applies to all those areas bordering Tibet, right? Tusang, Lomanthang.
Exactly, the semi-restricted areas. But what's really fascinating here is the timing.
This is what David Weiss really hones in on.
He does. He points out that the main reason for this shift seems to be the opening of the Corolla border with Tibet.
Specifically for trade.
For trade. So it suggests that the financial logic of intercountry commerce suddenly became more important than the so-called protection from the high fee.
But for you, the traveler, it's really important to know that not everything changed.
That's a great point. The core rules are still officially there for now. You still need that mandatory guide.
Still need a group of two.
And you still have to go through a trekking company. So while the cost is more flexible, the bureaucracy is still very much a thing.
You still have to get the permit processed in Kathmandu or Pokhara.
Yeah, which can take 4 to 6 hours. Pokhara is usually a bit faster, so the logistics haven't vanished.
Okay, let's get into the mechanics of this, because this is where David Ways' critique just lands like a bomb.
This is the hypocrisy at the heart of it, from his perspective.
Exactly. So if the $500 fee was for cultural preservation, what was actually happening on the ground while they were collecting all that money?
Well, his fury is all about the road. He says while they were enforcing this high fee, a great big Chinese road was being carved right through the region.
A road with, what, no footpaths or trail?
Yes, and he says it's actively destroying this culturally unique area.
Well, wait, so the government restricted tourist access, making trekkers pay $500 and hire guides,
All in the name of preservation.
while letting a massive road project just steamroll the very heritage they were supposedly protecting.
That is the contradiction. That's his entire point. The permit was in place, but the thing that was actually diluting the culture, this huge road, was being built the whole time. The fee never stopped it.
It makes the high fee seem like it was just a tax on foreigners, not a protective shield.
That's precisely the argument. And once that road is there, it creates all new problems. Ways points out it brings in things like, drunken weekend parties from other parts of Nepal.
Which further erodes the atmosphere in an area that's supposed to be revered.
Right. And the permit fee only changed after the road was built and the border was ready for trade. In his view, that confirms it was always about commerce, not conservation. The fee was just a distraction.
But let's bring in a counterpoint here for a second. That road, isn't it also a lifeline for local people?
Of course. That's the difficult balance.
All right, faster access to hospitals, to supplies, it improves livelihoods. Are we just looking at this through a romantic tourist lens?
It's a valid question, and roads do bring undeniable benefits. But critics like Ways would argue that preservation doesn't mean no development. It means responsible development.
Okay.
If that $500 was really meant to subsidize this isolated life, why wasn't some of that money used to, say, build tunnels or reroute the road around sacred sites?
So the money was collected, but the physical protection just failed.
It failed, which is why he proposes a completely different model, one that focuses on genuine local benefit.
So what's his idea?
He says, first, get rid of this $50 a day thing. He thinks that'll just line administrative pockets.
And replace it with what?
A simple, flat $50 permit, just to cover the government's processing costs.
Okay, but where's the preservation part?
This is the really interesting bit. He suggests a second, separate permit, a $250 permit just for the culturally sensitive eastern side of the region.
And the radical part of this idea.
The radical part is that everyone would have to pay it, including Nepali tourists.
And the money wouldn't go to the government in Kathmandu.
No, it would be earmarked specifically for cultural subsidies that go directly to the residents. Things like education, food, medical care, electricity.
So things that actually support the people living there and maintaining their culture, not infrastructure that dismantles it.
Exactly. The idea is to make the locals the primary economic stakeholders in their own preservation. It incentivizes them to maintain the cultural integrity of the area because they directly benefit from it.
That is a fascinating idea. But applying a high fee to your own citizens, that would raise some really complex political questions in Nepal, wouldn't it?
Oh, it would be very difficult to implement. But what it does is it forces a debate that the old $500 fee allowed everyone to ignore.
Which is...
Who's actually responsible for preserving cultural heritage? By only taxing foreigners, the government never really created a system where internal stakeholders felt that financial responsibility.
So where does this leave the future of Upper Mustang? The fee is more flexible now, for sure. More accessible.
It is. But that core conflict between preservation and, well, road-based development is completely unresolved.
It's more stark than ever, really.
And this whole situation is a really powerful lesson for you as a traveler. It shows how geopolitics, like a border opening and local economic demands, can just instantly sweep away these long-standing preservation policies.
Especially policies that, frankly, weren't even working.
Exactly. So it raises this huge question. When you open up a restricted area, how do you enforce any genuine cultural protection if your main The high fee was already proven to be useless against destructive development.
The road is already there. The damage, in some ways, is already done.
Right. So now the fee is just revenue. The shift from a high barrier to a per-day fee makes the area easier to get to, physically and financially. But you have to ask yourself,
Does more tourism, made easy by a big road, inevitably mean you're trading cultural authenticity for economic convenience?
that's the balance I have to find now.
The $50 a day permit might make Upper Mustang easier to visit, but you have to wonder what version of Upper Mustang you'll actually be seeing when you get there.
Precisely.
Thank you for joining us for this analysis of the Upper Mustang policy change. If this shift is impacting your travel plans, you really need independent, unbiased reporting on this.
Yeah, and the detailed information we've been talking about today really comes from the work of David Ways. His commitment to honest, on-the-ground travel information is just invaluable.
You can find all the essential information, including his Trekking in Nepal guidebook and the full Nepal guidebook, on his website, The Longest Way Home. It's a must-read before you plan any Himalayan adventure.